After the end of a stint as an iconic console manufacturer throughout the 80s, 90s, and the year 2000, Sega discontinued their final console, the short-lived, commercially floundering, but great Dreamcast, in 2001, which left Sega as a third-party publisher. They spent the rest of the 2000s as they do today, working on titles from their former console rivals, Microsoft, Nintendo, and Yakuza, or Like a Dragon as it will be called from now on, is a franchise of crime drama games by Sega. The first game in the series was launched in 2005, and the franchise is ongoing at the time of writing, with several strong releases scheduled in the coming years. Often seen by people as a spiritual successor to Sega's own Shenmue due to some similar gameplay elements, the two series are not related. Yakuza Kiwami was released on August 29, 2017 in the West on PS4 and on PC and Xbox a few years later. It is a remake of the original Yakuza from 2005. It followed the release of the prequel Yakuza 0 as part of the series' relaunch in the West. The original Yakuza, although popular in Japan, did not take off in the West. Some cite the English dub as a reason, but it's more likely was due to high competition in the crime drama genre and popularity of sandbox open world games like GTA. In fact, Yakuza has often been labelled as a GTA Japan, although the label doesn't fit. It's more of a modern beat-em-up, or JRPG. Although not my favourite in the series, that would probably be Yakuza 0, or Yakuza Like a Dragon. I recently pre-played Kiwami, and wanted a game to kick off a possible series of opinion pieces. So here we are. But why do I like Yakuza Kiwami so much? Let's go over some categories.
Yumi! Nishiki! Nishiki. Dojima Kumicho.
"1995, Kamurocho, Tokyo. Our hero and all-round wholesome boy Kiryu takes the heat for his best friend, Nishikiyama, who has just murdered the patriarch of his crime family for attempting to sexually assault their mutual friend Yumi. Kiryu spends 10 years in prison for the murder, while Nishikiyama climbs the ranks in the Japanese underworld, which changes the honourable man Kiryu once called his sworn brother. Also during this time, Yumi has gone missing. Fast forward to 2005, Kiryu gets released from prison. He has been expelled from the Yakuza for his alleged crime and has to readjust to society. While he gets his bearings and catches up with everything that has gone on after 10 years behind bars, with the help of his mentor Kazuma and the staff of Host Club Stardust, 10 million yen has gone missing from the Tojo clan's account. The stolen money is connected to Kiryu, Nishikiyama's old friend Yumi, and her sister Mizuki. And to top it all off, Kiryu has a chance meeting with Haruka, a 9-year-old girl claiming to be Yumi's niece and Mizuki's daughter. Without going into spoilers, the story ramps up here with twists, turns, betrayals, and heaps of organised crime drama, along with touching moments, as with every game in the series. It's one of the better stories of the franchise, with plenty of high stakes and great characters. Kiwami's narrative will hook you. The only thing stopping you from blasting through the story in one shot is the vast amount of side content that is the standout feature of most Yakuza games. But before I get into all that, let's go over some of the core gameplay mechanics. So the game is like a beat 'em up. I think it's kind of like the modern version of something like Streets of Rage or Final Fight, but with RPG elements, like boosting skills and whatnot. But it's set in a semi-open world. You don't have the freedom to do anything you want, like in a sandbox style game. So you can't go running over pedestrians in your free time. The only people you get to assault are the bad guys. And you do so using Kiryu's 4 fighting styles and some weapons. Although I don't find myself using weapons too often. So Kiryu has 4 styles available to him. Brawler, a balance style, rush style, which is really fast, but its hits are a lot weaker, and a beast style, which is very slow, but does a lot of damage. He also has a final style called Dragon, which is it's like Brawler, but a bit faster, and it's leveled up in a different way than all the rest. So most of the styles and Kiryu's strength and health are buffed up by defeating people in combat, like any other JRPG, in random encounters on the streets, Kamurocho, or in the fights that take place as part of the story. The last style, Dragon, is upgraded by fighting Kiryu's rival, Goro Majima, who is the co-protagonist from Yakuza 0. These two have a bit of a complicated relationship in the story, mainly on Majima's side. Kiryu doesn't really kind of do anything. Majima just kind of like harasses Kiryu and goads him into fighting him. But like, Majima's lovable, we all love him. If you play the games, you'll know. And when you beat him, you get Dragon style abilities back. Like many JRPGs, like the random encounters can get a bit annoying if you want to go somewhere quickly, if you've got a destination in mind. But they're really quick, so they're not that big a deal. The story fights are obviously a bit longer, and the bosses are quite fun to fight. It's a pretty simple gameplay loop, and it's quite satisfying, because the combat hits hard, especially with the heat moves, which are these finishers that you can do once you've built up your heat meter, which you gain by just landing hits on the enemy. The open world Kamurocho is quite small, but I think that works in its favour, because you learn its little nooks and crannies off by heart fairly easily, and you just know where to go on the map. You're not lost, you're not forever opening the map and going, oh shit, where do I need to go? And you don't need to plan out a route. You just kind of know eventually after a few hours of gameplay. It reminds me a bit of my favourite GTA, Vice City, in that way. That had a smaller map compared to the sequels, and I can still remember my way around Vice City. Like, if you ask me, how'd you get to this place on GTA 5's map? Not a clue. If you ask me how to get to Champion District in Yakuza, I know off by heart, because of the small size. Some of the later games have multiple locations, and Zero has multiple locations too. There's 2 cities you can go to. But yeah, you spend so much time in Kamurocho, it becomes a second home once you've played a lot of the games. So something Yakuza is known for is minigames. And they're a bit of a mixed bag, but there's something in there to please everyone. So I'll have a quick rundown of the minigames on offer to distract you from the main story path. I mean, 10 billion yen is at stake and the Yakuza are after you. So why not just race toy cars instead? So first off are batting cages. It's a simple baseball batting game. It's no MLB The Show, but it's simple and it's rather fun, Bowling's one of my favourite mini games in the series. I don't know why, I just like bowling games. I think Wii Sports sold me on bowling games. Then there's casino games like Baccarat, Blackjack, Poker and Roulette. I don't get much out of the gambling mini games. I mean, you could use them to make money, but there's more effective ways of making money in this game than playing freaking Blackjack all day. There's the hostess clubs. You talk to a hostess using multiple choice answers. Not a fun mini game by any stretch of the imagination. But the hostesses have sub-stories where you build a friendship with them. So there's value in doing them. Darts, it's an okay version of darts. Sometimes I'm in the mood to play the darts mini games, and it certainly works. Traditional Japanese gambling games like Silo, Chohan, Koi Koi, and Oichokabu. I probably butchered that last one. These are more interesting than the traditional Western style casino games I mentioned before, just because Western audiences are likely to be unfamiliar with them like myself. 2 are dice games, I think that's Silo and Chohan, and 2 are card games. And there's part of the story where you play Chohan. And it's cool to see these traditional Japanese games in a mainstream release. You don't see that every day. Every game has poker and blackjack and whatnot. Karaoke, a crowd pleaser. You've probably seen memes about this if you have any idea about Yakuza. It's a simple rhythm game, kind of reminds you of something like Parappa the Rapper. And the music videos are hilarious, so perfect meme fodder. Mahjong and Shogi. Mahjong you probably recognise from Microsoft Windows. Shogi's kind of like the Japanese chess. That's the closest thing I can compare it to. Every Yakuza game I start, I say, this'll be the time I get in and try Mahjong and Shogi. I never do. But I'm sure for fans of these two games, it's probably a decent little simulation and a time waster. Mesu King, these are like collectible cards in the game, and it's part of a string of sub-stories. Mesu King is essentially rock, paper, scissors, but with scantily clad women in bug costumes. Which is worth it for the sub-story alone, because in universe, it's an arcade game, and it's like almost exclusively played by children, oblivious to the sexual overtones, which kind of cracks me up. And it's a collectible, so they can be fun to hunt down in the open world. Photo booth, like a Purikura machine in Japan. It's what it says on the can. It's a photo booth where you pose and have different backgrounds. Not much to it, but it's cool to have it in there for atmosphere's sake. It makes it feel like a Japanese arcade. Pocket Circuit. This is a returning minigame from Yakuza 0. A lot of these minigames are repeated across the series, and it's another fan favourite. You race slot cars and customise them to take on rivals and defeat increasingly complicated tracks. It has a string of sub-stories attached to it, and you'll probably waste hours alone on this one. Pool. Much like bowling, I do enjoy a good pool minigame. And this is that for sure. It also has a puzzle-based mode called Puzzle Pool, which is quite fun. And finally, I hope I haven't forgotten any, but UFO Catcher. It's like a claw machine minigame. And has cute references to other Sega games and consoles. And it's got a sub-story attached to it. It's not much, but it's okay. The other side content aspect that people often discuss about Yakuza, even more so than the main story, is the sub-stories. When I first heard about Yakuza as a series, it was minigames and sub-stories. Nobody even touched on the main story. These are side quests that have Kiryu interacting with the many citizens of Kamurocho, helping them out with their problems or teaching them life lessons, like any other side quest in an RPG. What makes these special is it brings out Yakuza's great sense of humour, which isn't really seen in the dead serious crime drama main story. The series' sense of humour is quite silly and endearing, and the series has a really soft side as well. It's quite sweet at times for a game about hardened criminals. And the sub-stories and Kiryu's relationship with Haruka really turn him from, like, if you picked up the box, you'd see this Yakuza badass. And if you look at trailers of him beating people up, you think he's like Superman. But he's like this well-rounded, compassionate, wise, ethical, and surprisingly progressive guy. He's also really socially awkward, which you don't expect. And you would not get any of that. Well, you get bits of it with the stuff from Haruka, so you get some of his compassion there. But most of that extra seasoning is hidden away in these sub-stories. So most of them are must play. I'm not a huge graphics person. As long as it's got a good art style and the frame rate's smooth and it's reasonably presentable, I'm happy. And Yakuza Kiwami's cutscenes and the main character models are really nice, and the neon-soaked streets of Kamurocho are really immersive. It's not the best looking game in the franchise, as like the later games would change engine and have lots of significant upgrades to look way better. Like Kiwami 2, for example, looks a lot better than Kiwami 1. But the game looks and runs great on both the big screen consoles like PS4 and PS5, and runs seamlessly on Steam Deck, which I played it on last time. From the bustling Kamurocho ambience to the pumping music, Yakuza has great sound design as well. The soundtrack has some memorable pieces, especially the karaoke songs and Receive You. And also the credit song ends with a rendition of Amazing Grace, which is kind of a cool nod to the game's Christmas setting and themes, and I did not expect it. I forgot it was in there the second time I replayed it. So overall, I love Yakuza Kiwami. The story really ramps up the stakes as the game goes along, and you can get lost for hours playing minigames and sub-stories. Although Yakuza 0 is probably stronger in both these departments, as I played about 40 hours of Kiwami in my most recent playthrough on Steam Deck, and 100 of Yakuza 0. Yakuza has become one of my favourite franchises of the last 10 years, with Kiryu and the other characters becoming some of my favourite characters in gaming at the moment. So that's all I have on Kiwami. I've played all the games in the series available in the West, at least at the time of recording. I know Ishin comes out very soon, and I'll probably get around to that at some stage. I don't know if I'll play it immediately or after, because I'm going to the real life Camarocho in a couple of months, so that might, have to save money for that. Anyway, would you be interested in any more of these kind of style videos, either on Yakuza, one of the other games, or just a different game altogether? And I'd like to finish off with, this is my first video in this kind of style about games. Usually my uploads are about To Catch a Predator, or, streams about Lauren Armstrong, or memes about him. As you know, if you're a sub of mine already. So if you have any critiques about this video, let me have it, man. Tell me what works, what didn't work for you, and I'll see if I can incorporate it into the next video. If I do another gaming one, that is. Bye.